Get them fired up and get them to the staging lanes, baby, because 8th Mile Apparel is now carrying Glowing Bracket Racing merch. Hats, t-shirts, hoodies, and much more can be yours today by visiting 8thmileapparel.com. We appreciate each and every one of you guys supporting the Glowing Bracket Racing YouTube and Facebook pages.
Everybody, Casey and George back with you on I'm doing like 9 things at a time right here on my little bitty computer screen that I'm not used to, but I was trying to figure out, I think PRI is going on right this minute. We were there last year. We'll be back this year, December 10th, 2024. If you guys haven't looked at the calendar lately, episode 179 of the Glowing Bracket Racing live show. If you're watching us from PRI, we wish we were there with you. Unfortunately, we couldn't make it this year. We got a lot going on right now, but we'll be back next year with all you guys. I want to say that Proform Parts, one of our great marketing partners here, you see their stuff all right here, and they're the ones doing all of these giveaways every single month, proformparts.com. We still got a billet degree wheel to give away, and we have a dial bore gauge to give away as well, and we're going to give those away. I want to say we'll give them both away at the same time. Give them away the Christmas Eve show, because I think we're scheduled for Christmas Eve pretty much for Tuesday. So we'll see what happens with all that, and we'll be putting the word out for you. Thanks to Proform Parts for supporting us the way they do. They're coming back in 2025. We'll probably do some more giveaways with them, so you always want to be subscribed to the Glowing Bracket Racing YouTube channel, because you get entered for free, 100% for free, just by being a subscriber on the Glowing Bracket Racing YouTube channel. So go over there and check that out. We have a lot of free races streamed over there too, and we're going to have even more in 2025. So you want to be a subscriber anyway, so you get those notifications. Also, thank you to TSR Racing Products. Freshen up those Power Glides, Turbo 350s, 400s, and 727s. Get all of your transmission parts from TSR Racing Products. They've helped us out from the very beginning, and we appreciate them so much. So show them some love over the winter time. Show your race car some love over the winter time. Even more important, BRG 3D printed parts. Brian Garrett, he can print you up all those custom parts. You wonder how you're going to be able to fab this without a CNC machine. Well, Brian Garrett can get you figured out on all that stuff. If you got CAD drawings, that's even easier, but he can make them for you. Anything you need for your race car, you got any kind of weird coil on plug stuff going on, that's always some fancy thing that you got going on. How you going to mount that? Brian Garrett will get you figured out on that. BRG 3D printed parts, the place to go for that. Syntex Printing out there in Temple, Texas. If you didn't do it already, you need some last minute stuff for those PRI show necessities. Need some brochures, need some flyers, need anything printed up, anything on those big printer stickers, all kinds of stuff you need for your business. I don't even know where to start. Syntex Printing at Temple, Texas. That's where you need to go to. Already talked about Proform Parts, but we need to talk about that Driven Racing Oil. You see that big banner behind me, drivenracingoil.com. Get all these products next to me and even more gear oil. They got that too. I need to get me some of that in both of my cars actually, but GP1, I'm telling you right now, if you're racing right now, you're down there at Immokalee, and I don't know what the temperature is down there. I'm sure it's a little bit warmer than it is where I'm at. However, you can't go wrong with that Driven Racing Oil. Those bearings look brand new whenever you take them out. And what people don't realize is you spend a little bit more up front, but then you triple the amount of time that you can go on that oil change, therefore saving money in the long run. Use the code GBR10, get yourself 10% off that first time you try it, and they're beyond. There's no limit. Use the GBR10. Get as much as you want. There's no limit to the code GBR10. I'm all confused because I'm doing this all out of order right now. I sound like an idiot right now, but Crew Chief Pro software, he'll make you not look like an idiot on the racetrack if you are one like myself. George can be at times. I'm not calling him any names, but I'm just saying everybody's stupid at times. So you need Crew Chief Pro, bail you out. Don Higgins proved his point whenever he went down there at the Mini Million. What was he in, like 7th round or something? George going dead on, had a spark plug blow out and still within 400s.
Yep.
Crew Chief Pro, man, it can predict your future. 8th Mile Apparel. Going Bracket Racing merch. Best thing you can get for your kids for Christmas. Best thing you can get for your friends for Christmas. 8thmileapparel.com. That's where you get all of that cool GBR merch, hats, hoodies, T-shirts, all kinds of stuff. Who knows what we got coming out over there. 8thmileapparel.com. Get yourself some GBR merch for Christmas and support the show so we can keep coming at you and get it even bigger and better in 2025. George.
What?
I think I got a lot of stuff. I've already called you an idiot on this show. I'm sorry about that. I didn't mean to.
I'm known to be a bonehead from time to time, just like you said, we all are, you know what I mean? And also, like you said, that Crew Chief Pro, you know, I'm a nerd, and everybody knows that by now. And man, I sure do like me some Back to the Future. Well, Crew Chief Pro could very well be the equivalent to the sports almanac that Biff had, that Marty McFly was trying to take bets. So y'all best to get y'all some of that Crew Chief Pro, and that way you can make future predictions. Casey, man, it's been a pretty eventful couple of days, I guess, here since the last time we came on last Tuesday, and not much has changed. The weather is definitely starting to get a little chilly out there. So a special shout out to anybody, like you said, out there at Immokalee. It's probably 70 degrees, 75, and maybe y'all in hoodies at night. That might be about it, but shout out to you out there, always or still going at it, and hopefully you ain't breaking parts and having to come back with a huge bill over the winter. So, hey, Casey, man, I'm excited for today's show, dude. Not much on the docket, to be honest with you, man. It's just that point of the season where we'll start trying to get guests to come on the show and maybe get a little bit more content coming through from the eyes of racers. If you guys know anybody who you'd like to hear from or wouldn't even mind coming on the show themselves, just give us a shout. Hit the Facebook page up, hit the Going Bracket Racing at gmail.com email address up, whichever way you see fit. If you got our telephone numbers, heck, just send a text message. It don't matter. But Casey, man, looking forward to today's conversation, man.
Yeah, like you said, there's some things going on, not a lot going on. I guess we kind of got to talk about the major elephant in the room, which is something that doesn't necessarily have to do with bracket racing, but Kai Kelly, man, who would have expected Kai Kelly to go out and dominate snowbirds? I mean, he didn't. I mean, he hole shotted his way on a couple of those. So if there's something to talk about on a bracket racing channel about that, it's the hole shot. And there's a couple. Well, there's one round in particular. It was either at 8 cars or at 4 cars that Kai had no business winning that next round. And whoever was in the other lane, I'm telling you right now, that dude was probably throwing up because he outran him by 300ths, and Kai was like 12 on the tree or something, and run a 62 to a 59 and beat him.
Yeah.
I mean, that was unbelievable. But I mean, I would say probably the biggest.
I got one that'll bring it back to the bracket racing world for us, man. I challenge Kai Kelly if he ever stumbles upon this page and maybe even this particular episode. Man, you might as well get in a bracket car and go race for $1 million at this point, dude. You hole shotting everybody. You might as well let go off the top or the bottom. It don't matter, and see if your car run dead on. I promise you, there's several bracket racers out here right now that'll let you jump in their car just to go see what you got, man. Just bring a GoPro, and shout out GBR for giving you the idea. Maybe we'll grow 2 million followers just overnight. You know how popular Kai Kelly is in the world, but that would be something that I would be interested in seeing, man, is us to be able to hire a no prepper or even a radio or a pro mod or whatever the case, but jump on in a bracket car, see if you can hole shot us. That ain't a challenge.
Don't forget Disco Dean, man. Disco Dean's one of those no prep kings and is a very, very good bracket racer. So don't forget about him. But
true,
I will say that I saw Kai's car went 362, who knows, at least 3 or 4 times, but I don't know if it has a profiler on it or not. That's a question, but to be essentially 12 inches shorter wheelbase than probably the vast majority of those pro mods. I mean, I can tell you that a 108-inch wheelbase car drives significantly different than a 115-inch wheelbase car. And I'm sure if you looked at some in-car views, the cars look like they're going straight, but Alex Laughlin posted a video, his last run, where the car did look like it got a little out of shape, but then you look at the in-car view right after it, and his hands are supposed to be like this, and they were like this. The car didn't look like he was like this, but there's a lot more to it whenever when you get out of shape. And it kind of proved a point to me that when you get out of shape, everybody's always like, man, it felt a lot crazier than that inside the car. Well, it was
Right.
a lot crazier inside the car. It wasn't just you being in the scenario. It was a lot crazier than it looked, but
Right.
things can get out of control pretty quick, and people got to be able to handle it. I mean, Alex Laughlin can handle everything. He's driven a fuel funny car. There's nothing more out of control than a fuel funny car. So that was probably nothing for him. But I just wanted to talk about that because obviously we were posting about it on the Going Bracket Racing page, and man, it's cool to see Wes doing all this stuff in the wintertime because it makes it where there's legitimately no off season anymore. So there's a lot of viewership type things that can happen now.
Yeah, something to fill the downtime. We know Motor Mania is likely. I think Motor Mania is out in Immokalee, but I'm not 100% sure. Casey,
Yeah, they
maybe
actually
you know.
just went live a few minutes ago. Actually, I saw that they're live on Tuesday out there in Immokalee right now. So
there's something for us to watch, you know. But
right.
yeah, dude, I couldn't imagine myself, and I wouldn't say, I never say never, but I don't imagine myself getting in a pro mod and having to have my hands do anything like this here. Those cars are so fast. I'm not so sure that I have the guts. We'll leave it at that. I don't have the guts. I don't think. But we'll see what happens if I ever get the opportunity, man. So, Casey, man, what we got going on today, dude? You know, it's like I said already, it's getting cold outside, so you know what that means. Most everybody's already up on jack stands, as I mentioned before. Car's probably covered up. You probably got antifreeze in your car, whatever you do for the wintertime. Maybe some of you got climate cooled shops that you got something running on out there to keep the temperatures above. You know, keep it nice and warm in there. But Casey, man, what are we gonna talk about?
I don't know. What do you want to talk about? It's kind of an open room right now. We didn't really talk about a whole lot earlier. Pretty much all we talked about was what are we going to talk about? And it was a whole lot of that isn't anything. That isn't anything. But I guess
got one for you, Casey, man. I got one for you,
okay.
man. We're in the off season. You got two of them. I only have one. What kind of changes you making, man? Anything? I know I don't expect for you to come out with the same exact tune-up on both cars. So, what you got going on over the winter? What you changing up?
Well, any minute now, the Chevelle's going to leave my shop and go to Show Enough Performance out there in Havelock, North Carolina, and get all the fancy wiring job done that I don't have patience to make look nice. This car's too high end to have stuff strung all over the place. I just don't want it to be that way. Adam Booya does a great job with wiring and can get all that stuff lined out. I think it's actually going to Shelton Frank's shop. He's going to help him along with all that stuff. So everything will be good to go. I got to have those guys move the burn down tank to the back. I don't really like it being in the front of the car. If anything ever happened, I don't want the oil to be blown all over the engine compartment and then me have to run it over. I've always kind of thought that was just a bad idea. So I'm going to have them put like a Pro Mod style burn down tank in the back. I don't know how we're going to go about that yet. So we'll see what those guys come up with. Shelton's got some really high-end cars out there, so they'll have plenty of ideas to look into that deal. But my plan is to concentrate on the Top Sportsman car next year. I'm going to run a bunch of the 450 Mad Dog stuff, all the 450 Mad Dog stuff, and hopefully run for the championship in that deal at Farmington out here. 450 door car index deal. And then definitely going to run the 2 PDRA races at Galat and probably the 2 other ones at VMP since they're relatively close to me and kind of see where that leads. And then on the other hand, then Matthews got my Nova. He took that down to South Carolina because he's nuts. So he went to South Carolina the other day for a gambler's race and then took it down to 4 cars before he was 3 red, dead 5. So he was almost there on that one too. But that car's coming back to me. I haven't decided what I'm going to do with it yet. I got like 3 roads that I want to potentially take. One of which is one of which is the ultra cheap route, which is take everything out of the motor, magnaflux it, put new rod bolts in it or something, and maybe put new valve springs on it and slap everything back together. Number 2 would be get a new rotating assembly and rebuild the 406 and just put a little bit more compression in it. And then I have another idea where I might put a 3875 stroke crank in it and make it a 421, which would involve a lot going on, because if I'm going to do that, it needs a bigger cam anyway. So I'm at a crossroads on that deal. But if I put a bigger cam in it, that's going to screw up my rocker arm ratio. So then I'm going to need different push rods more than likely. And then it just turns into, there's a lot of routes I can take. And I just want to focus on the Chevelle first before I decide what I'm going to do with the Nova. So when you have 2 cars, you got to kind of make sacrifices in certain stuff, but I want to focus on the fast car next year more than anything. So if the Nova has to be pushed over in the corner for a little while, then so be it. But I want to do the best I can on the fast car right now and see what happens.
Yeah,
that
makes pretty good sense too, man. You know, you gotta get one of them taken care of. If anything, just freshen up the other for the year if you have to. You know, nobody will think different of you coming out with a pro-charged car next year that, who knows, may set the world on fire in at least for what it is, Casey. You know what I mean, dude? I've heard the numbers, and I'm not just going to shout them out. Never know if you're going to get in no time or something ignorant, but I doubt it. But you never know. So
you never know.
You never know. So
I need a bigger blower though. I need a 1 or 2 size bigger blower. And as long as everything holds together this year, I have a lot of plans for 2026 really, because I'm going to use this year to really learn the car and learn what's what, and just figure out how everything goes. And hopefully, like I said, everything stays together. I'll tear it all apart next year, and then I got a lot of irons in the fire.
Yeah.
But it all depends on a lot of things, really.
So do you have the opportunity? I know you're gonna do some big dog, that index racing, that 450 index out there. A little bit far away from Verge. Otherwise, I'm pretty sure you'd meddle around over in there too. But any shots at doing any NHRA top sportsman in the future?
Possibly. That might be a 2026 thing. I might run the Rockingham race at the end of the year, because I'll need to upgrade my NHRA license. Unless actually, I got a top sportsman IHRA license. I just don't know how all that stuff works. If it's a direct transfer to NHRA or how that'd be. So I need to call the division director and figure that out. But NHRA has a stipulation where you have to run, I think you just have to run faster than 799 in the quarter, but it's got to be a quarter mile run. It's got to be, I think the rule is it's got to be a quarter mile run, basically justifying what class you're trying to get your license for. So the only track really near me that runs quarter mile would be Rockingham, and they really only run quarter mile during test and tune, obviously, and then they'll run during the NHRA double divisional that they have later this year. So towards the end of the year, I'll probably do that. I think this car would probably go faster than 799, probably lifting at the 8th mile, I would say. So I'm not concerned about that, but I don't want to run quarter mile at a test and tune at a car that's going to go in the 6s.
Let's get
that's just not a good idea.
Let's make sure everything's prepped all the way out, all that good stuff. So that's one of those races, man, where I have the my thought process of entering the race to get your testing is probably pretty sound, especially when you're talking about going that fast. There's no point going to a test and tune if you're going to be close enough to a race and you're going that fast.
Well, I'm talking about a regular test and tune where there's nobody running quarter mile really, other than street cars and stuff like that. Like they have a test and tune before their NHRA event, and Rockingham they just redid the whole track. Obviously, this time last year we were talking to Dan and Al about Rockingham, the owners of Rockingham Dragway, about all the changes they've been making, and they made tons and tons of changes. I've heard not one bad word about Rockingham. As far as the racers go, since they took over and started fixing everything. So, in fact, I heard from a guy the other day that it's the smoothest track he's ever been on. So, it's great things coming from Rockingham Dragway. And I'm interested to go. I still have yet to go there yet. There's just been a million things coming up, and I just haven't been able to go, but I'm definitely going this coming year. The way their points races work too, I want to say they run 10 granders for their points races, and they stack them into, I think, 2 or 3 3-day weekends. So it's really only 3. I think they do a Friday, Saturday, Sunday deal. So you really only have to take off Friday twice, and you can run Rockingham's full program.
Gotcha.
So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, that is pretty neat. Yeah. So Rockingham, we know it's not very far from you anyway, with a couple hours anyway. So that's pretty cool, dude. Sounds like you got your hands full over the good winter. So me in particular, I think it'll probably be closer to spring. I'm thinking in March by the time I get some changes that I'm going to be looking at doing, taking care of. And most everybody who's been watching this show, you probably already know what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to say goodbye to the carburetor and introduce the Ron's fuel injection system to a little 368 small block Chevy, and see what it'll like, see what it won't like, things of that nature. So if anybody's ever made that type of change, there's a few things you got to do. Number one, my fuel tank's in the back. Well, it ain't going to be in the back anymore when we're done with this one. Move it up to the front and, make a compartment. May go with a smaller radiator. Get me one of those new Proforms. It's probably one of the smallest Proforms I can find, if you know what I mean. But they make good stuff, so I'll just put another one in there. And then I'm going to Goodyear's, probably a little bit smaller. Probably kick the gear up just a little bit. Probably not a lot. I don't know. I don't expect very much out of the tires in the first place, Casey. We've had that conversation a million times too about tires and how they impact tune-ups, setups, car performance, things like that. So, and then maybe a vacuum pump to keep that oil cleaner. Not that it gets dirty anyway. Old driven is just that good, so it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? So, that's pretty much my my spiel, because I'm not savvy enough to speak more engine like Casey can. He's got that engine speak. You give me a computer and I might talk around you. That's just how I work.
Not in Excel though. We found that out earlier today.
I did figure it out. That thing was messed up all the way. Like I had to read. Anyway, that's a long story. Excel was kicking my behind today. But
Excel, AutoCAD, and Revit. Those are the 3 programs I know. That is all.
Yeah. I'll stay away from all 3 of those too, because I don't know nothing about any of them. But hardware, software, I generally can get my hands a little dirty and some stuff like that. So, yeah, Casey, man, I don't know. I don't know what to predict on this old car. It's a little bitty old motor. I know you guys know it, and he's just an overachiever, and if he puts me in the 580s and even into the 570s, I'm just not gonna be shocked, man. I'm not gonna be shocked. We got a pretty good understanding in the family. I got some documents somewhere that I won't tell you where they are, but I got some information on that old Ron's fuel injection system that somehow we can just seem to get them to run pretty good. I don't necessarily understand why a lot of people struggle with them, Casey. Maybe you do. It's more engine speak, man, or tune-up speak, but seemingly a lot of people have Ron's fuel injection kits just sitting on their shelves in their shops collecting dust because they couldn't get it to work right. So that's how it works, right?
I don't know. I've never had any experience with mechanical injection, really. All I know is that either people absolutely love it or absolutely hate it, and there's absolutely no in between. I don't know why. I know one of my buddies, he had 3 cars and he had it on all of them. And one of them, it was one of the best cars there was out there. And he said the other 2, it was a piece of crap. He said and he didn't really know why. So, but I mean, like I said, the fact of the matter is James Monroe has won Top Dragster Championship, a couple Super Quick Championships. He's always ran fast stuff. He's an extremely good bracket racer. There was a time that he basically dominated all over Indiana. If James showed up, then he was going to win everything. And he owns Killer Ron's now, I believe. So he was always one of their head guys. And I think he actually bought the company several years ago. But obviously it can work. It's just a matter of knowing what you're doing. And I think the main thing is there's just not a lot of people. There's not a lot of people that mess with it. pretty much the primary people that mess with it are in that general area of where it's sold, where it's made. And if you can talk to those people who know what they're doing, it works great. But I don't know. I don't think there's enough people. Like a carburetor, 90% of people or more have carburetors. So obviously there's always someone you can ask. And if they're reasonably smart, they can at least get you pointed in the right direction. But there's just no one to ask about the mechanical injection stuff really, other than, because that's typically Enderley stuff on alcohol funny cars and stuff like that.
Yeah. I know there's a few guys out here in Texas who run Ron setups and not sure on pumps and things like that they might have, but I know that they have, mechanical fuel injection on their setup. So, not that I'd be going to anybody for help. I'll have everything I need and understanding of what to do, because I'll say it once and I'll say it twice. I have two gurus. And there's not a car in the stable that doesn't have injection on it. Let's put it that way. It doesn't matter if it's my cousin's car, the Corvette, one of the dragsters, two of the dragsters have it. Both my uncles, all of our cars are fuel injected. I was the only carbureted car in the whole family. So, looking forward to next year, man, quite a bit, honestly. It's a change I've been really wanting to do for the last couple years, at least two, I would say, and finally got the means to do it. So here we go. Come on, fuel injection. Hang in there, guys, because it's a real good time for us to cut into letting the marketing partners have a few words at your ear. Make sure that while you're here, you subscribe at the YouTube channel if you're over there. If you're on Facebook, well, leave Facebook, go over to YouTube and subscribe over to YouTube channel. And if you're on the podcast format, well, pull out your phone while we're on commercial break or listen in for a second and then wait and then don't even listen to us for a couple of seconds. Go to YouTube and subscribe over there on the YouTube channel. So maybe you guys get my point. Hang in there. Be right back.
TSR Racing Products has everything you need to make your Power Glide Turbo 350, Turbo 400, and 727 transmissions the best they can be on the street or at the track. With exceptional products, customer service, and over 30 years of experience, TSR Racing Products is always available to help their customers with any of their transmission needs. In-house machining ensures you only receive the best products from TSR Racing. Visit TSR Racing Products at tsr-racing.com or give them a call at 800-394-5889.
BRG Motorsports 3D printed racing parts are able to provide you with whatever you desire to enhance your drag racing operation. Items like safety belt magnets, nitrous bottle holders, and even quick release delay box mounts are able to be obtained from BRG Motorsports 3D printed racing parts. Have a look at top-selling items such as helmet hooks and steering wheel hooks, which are proven to make it easier to maneuver throughout your race car. You can contact BRG Motorsports 3D printed racing parts at telephone number 765-729-1177.
We've completely redesigned our best-selling thermostat fan to make it even better. Proform's high-performance universal 15-inch electric fan is the perfect upgrade to replace the stock fan in your vehicle. It's equipped with a thermostat that's adjustable from 160 to 240 degrees. Mounted to your radiator supports with sturdy brackets and driven by a heavy-duty motor, this unit pulls up to 2,800 CFM of air with a 14-amp current draw. All mounting hardware and wiring are included.
All right. Welcome back. Going Bracket Racing. I believe this is episode 179. Casey, nod your head if I'm right. Yeah. 179 episodes over here at the good old Going Bracket Racing podcast. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for being those GBR maniacs that you are. The part of the Going Bracket Racing community that really and truly you guys do more for us than you know. We look forward to this conversation. It's just that. It's a conversation about bracket racing, something that's very close to the both of us and has been for a better part of 35 years for myself. Pretty sure Casey's either there or getting close to that same exact number. So it's good to come on and talk about bracket racing. It's good to, at the same time, to be able to give some love to the bracket racing supporters, people like Crew Chief Pro or Ken Jones Performance, TSR Racing Products, Proform Parts that does more than just bracket racing, but bracket racing parts can be used there. Driven Racing Oil. I can tell you what Casey tells you at the beginning of the show all the time, but I don't have the breath to do so. I'll leave that to Casey. Driven Racing Oil, put it in your engine, especially those methanol burners. BRG Motorsports, 3D printed parts. 3D printed parts speaks for itself. My helmet hook has always been great for me. I believe I got a steering wheel hook. I got a fast disconnect. I got a fire extinguisher mount. I seen he had a water bottle holder in there the other day. I'm kind of eyeballing that because, man, in Texas, it's 110 degrees. You know what I mean? So having a nice glass of water somewhere that isn't just rolling around in the car, that's always good to get my hands on. You strapped in, you can't reach your water. I don't care who you are. You strapped in and tightened down, you're not reaching your water unless you like Gumby arms or something tall. But Team 14 Motorsports been here from the start. Oh, Kevin Little, man, can't wait to see you back out there in your race car. The Black Panther will be back on the scene next year as far as I've heard. So at the same time, 8th Mile Apparel, it is Christmas time. Get you some of that GBR merch, man. Hats, hoodies, accessories. Can be yours today. Oh, champ, I'm channeling it. You know what I mean? So,
Yep, that's right.
Hey, man, those guys over at Your Ad here are pretty cool, too. Those are Going Bracket Racing boys, George and Casey. If you've never heard of them, they're just two young fellas. They like to act young anyway, that love the sport of bracket racing and love to promote products to the community. So, if you need anything like that, just feel free to send an email over to goingbracketracing@gmail.com. Get on the Facebook page, the Instagram, or the TikTok. It doesn't matter. We might not have TikTok in about, a month, but we'll see what happens there. But get on there for now because we're still there too. Casey, man, TB Promotions is in the house. I see him over here, man. Seen their schedule come out for Verge, as well as the bracket racing schedule, dude. And needless to say, they're doing what they do best, man, bringing some of the best to the promotions industry, especially in bracket racing.
Yep, TV Promotions is going to the top. We were talking about that a few episodes ago. That man, I mean, they showed up and never missed a step. I mean, usually people come into the game and they say, hey, obviously it's going to take some time to get where we're going, and usually you get in and you kind of figure out what you're doing. But man, Brian and Tyler have participated in that stuff their entire lives, growing up in it. They've both been on this show multiple times. And, not only are they racers, and we talk over and over again, I can't tell you how many times on this show I've said I always just want the racers to be in control. So that way, whenever you have a decision that nobody wants to make, people can still respect the decision because those guys are being in charge. A racer specifically being in charge has more than likely been in the situation themselves before. So at least you can respect the decision, even if you don't agree with the decision.
Right. I'm pretty sure I saw Tebow was out there in Florida too, throwing down with the boys out at Immokalee. I don't know if he unveiled a new roadster or not. I feel like I saw a picture of a roadster too, so that'd be pretty.
Jerron's painting it. Jerron's painting it right now. He said he had to go down to Florida and make some money so he could pay the bill.
We all know that's gonna be a slick son of a gun then if old Jerron is on behind the paint. You know what I mean? And I've not seen anything that doesn't look good that's been painted by him. So, pretty good stuff though. But spot on, Casey. Hats off to all promoters. Number one, all of you. It doesn't matter what your name is out there, in my opinion. And when you got something going on, we do our best here at GBR to spit it out as best as we can. But hats off to you guys. Not taking anything from anybody, but TB came on the scene. Had the Racers Revival, I believe is what it was at one point, where it was a big old class race. And I think he moved it to after the national event, which is Albert Einstein-esque. That's just genius. You know what I mean? To set up a race that all the racers are already there racing a pretty big divisional in the first place, I think. So hats off to TB Promotions, man. Keep doing what you're doing for the sport. Casey, man, look. This one's a tough conversation, I think, because we named this thing. There's more than one way to skin a cat in this sport. You know what I mean? We're whatever you want to call it, field dress, undress. I don't know. There's more than one way to do it, dude. So I figured this would be a good time, especially after we just get done talking about what we're going to do with our own hot rods, to talk about potential setups. things that we're seeing, I don't even believe we've ever talked about this before, Casey, but things that we see out there, not only from a driver's standpoint, from first person looking back behind you and seeing where a car is, but from a time slip standpoint or from a spectator's view. Let's talk about some of these setups, Casey, out here, and some of the tricky ones that we run into, starting with those high gear onlys, man. Give me your thoughts on high gear only setups.
I've ran a little bit of high gear only stuff at some smaller tracks, actually in my Nova, and I noticed that it was essentially just as consistent as running in first gear. It just killed roughly a half second off of the time, and that'll vary depending on what's what, but it still runs the same mile an hour within a couple mile an hour of what you would run in first gear. So it can definitely mess up your looks as far as what's going on if your driver can get in, used to it. And it can definitely be a good tool in the bag if you can. Brandon Taylor was one of the first people that I ever saw like implementing the strategy of, there have been plenty of people that have ran high gear only. They typically run high gear only the whole race, but Brandon Taylor's liable to run in first gear first round, and then high gear second round, and then high gear and spray it third round, and then go back to first gear fourth round. So, I mean, you'll see this guy moving his dial in 3 to 4 tenths at a time, and you never know what's going on. I mean, probably one of the savviest finish line drivers there is. I want to say actually he actually won. He either won or was in the finals for that Roadster at Montgomery the other day, for that new C7 Roadster. I want to say that, I feel like TJ Pruitt's going to get mad at me if I get this wrong, but I'm pretty sure the other guy beat BT in the final. But who knows? He might have been doing that during that deal too. But by far one of the savviest finish line drivers there ever has been, and willing to do anything at any point.
Yeah, and let's talk about what that takes too, Casey, because one thing that we know, launching in low and launching in high gear only does some things to your race car. Number one, it ain't reacting as hard. Number one. So obviously there had to be some time spent doing this in order to know what to put your delay box at first and foremost. Okay. So hats off, man. That, you're right, Casey. It's probably one of the first that I seen, especially BT being able to come out there, and one round he's dialed 460 or something, the next round he's dialed 505 or something ignorant. You know what I mean? Depending on who he's racing or what he feels like he's going to be able to accomplish. It did help that every time he let go, I feel like he was surgical. It was like 00, low 00 every time he let go. And so, pretty neat, Casey, man. Next one I know that runs it quite a bit, and I can't remember if you mentioned this or not. I had a text message come through my phone, but Catfish Lynch, man, he's pretty tricky with his car. And I don't want to call out everybody's do's and don'ts out on that racetrack, but if you don't know they're doing this already, then you loading up your car and going home in the first place, okay? Because it looks a whole lot different from experience. And luckily my uncle leaned in the car and said, he's got high gear only, he gonna come at you hard at the top end, you better be ready for it. Because I wasn't paying attention, I was amped up, I know who it is for the lane. So I was like, oh, this catfish, I'm about to fillet a catfish real quick, I guess, or at least attempt to. And I think I ended up getting 3 stripe to be one above something goofy, and he was 5 stripe or something. We're both dead on though, but needless to say, that car charges hard. Like, you look back and it's like, there ain't no way he's catching me. And then number 2, I left before him, but I was dialed faster. So my light came down and I'm gone, and then he's, here I come around. I'm like, oh, this dude's in deep trouble. So that's kind of the first telltale sign if you're running somebody like that, especially if you don't think they were just got awful along the tree. Yep. Yeah.
And I mean, even just the simple fact that can actually help other people out too, because I've been in the scenario I was at Loose Rocker race at Galat, the 20 grainers. Ryan Gleghorn was announcing, And whenever he watches this show later at PRI, I'm sure he's going to say, yeah, I remember that. Ryan was on the mic, and I've drilled this dude on the tree, and he missed it like crazy. And I was holding like 5 numbers. He's dialed like 570. I'm dialed like 650 or something, whatever I would have been dialed, but whatever it was 5 up from what I thought I could run. And I'm double O. This dude's like 70. So I get down there and I'm at half track, and I'm like, this guy's got to be running high gear only because he's so far back there. And I look forward and I'm like, oh no, there's the cone. And so I mash the brakes through the floor and break out by 2 thou looking like an idiot. And that's Ryan says, Casey, we just talked about this on the microphone on Motor Mania in front on everybody. And I'm like, yep, well, look like an idiot. Everybody does it. But I mean, it just, things like that, you know, just mess with your head so much because I'm so far out on this guy. That was the only solution I could come up with was I was like, he has to be running high gear only and getting ready to spray on me or something because it just doesn't make sense.
Right. You're waiting for it. And it's like, dude, I see you making a move, but it's not the move that I expected you to make at all. And it's like, stuck in glue because you're still watching. Like, where's the move? Where's the move? Where's the move?
Watch too long. I should have looked back forward, and I looked back too long, and that's what happens. But I mean, it's one more thing to think about, and you can catch people doing that if you are somebody who is liable to do that. So when you miss the tree, they might think that's what you're doing, but you got to do it right. You can't be the guy that. The reason it works for Brandon Taylor is because Brandon Taylor's going dead on no matter which way he's doing it, and he's hitting the tree no matter which way he's doing it. And you don't know which way is coming at any point because he doesn't race where he runs the entire race high gear only. He doesn't race where he runs that whole race high gear only and sprays it. He doesn't race the whole race in first gear. Any round that he's in, he'll run you a different way. So you never know what it's going to look like round to round, even though you know Brandon Taylor can do any of that stuff at any point. Right. You don't know what's coming right now. You know within reason based on what he's dialed, but you never know what he's going to do. So because of that, at times he could get away with being 70 on the tree when you're double O and screw you up because you're screwing yourself up because you're so worried about him.
Yeah, make it look.
That's what happened to me.
Yeah, I hear you, man. I hear you. You know, another thing that's and again, I'm not gonna name any names because I like this old car here. I'm not gonna out him at all. But we see cars out here every now and then. We know Luke Bogacki's talked about it once or twice on his This Is Bracket Racing, I believe, one of his episodes where he has enough nitrous on the car to spray the car from behind you one wheel to in front of you one wheel, just almost instantly. You know what I mean? Well, I know cars with an S that have timers that the NOS is on a timer. When you get down to a certain point of the racetrack, I want to say right about 580 feet to be exact. Most of us are about to make a decision in that time frame unless we got something in our pocket and we already been scrubbing, right? Then the nitrous kicks on and he's a wheel in front of you. You see how there's more than one way to skin a cat? It's always how could I put it? It's always a guessing game to some extent with some of these racers, especially at the bigger events. There's just so many different ways to do it. Casey, have you ever ran into anything like that before? I haven't myself, but man, I've seen it over and over, and I've watched, and I'm like, you better not drop. Oh, you dropped, you're done. And then he go right past you because you dropped right about that mile an hour cone, and you're in deep doo-doo after that.
Yeah, I've talked about doing that for years, but the issue is that when you do that, and Bogacki figured this out 2 years ago at the OG Million, he had an in-car video. You can go back on probably This Is Bracket Racing and look at his videos on Facebook. And he had a video, he was videoing the entire race. He got down to, I want to say, like 16 cars or maybe even 8 cars at the OG Million at Gateway 2 years ago. And he was spraying on a timer. You can hear the RPMs come up at the finish line every time. But what it does is there's 2 ways that you can think about it. Either you have a smart racer that can figure that out, that you're doing that by watching you, by listening to the RPMs. It forces them to race you honest. But what it's also doing is, if you're doing it that way, you can't drive the stripe anymore because nitrous timers have a wide open throttle switch. So if you're off the throttle, they can't blow nitrous in there and everything and blow the motor up. So, I mean, in theory, I guess they'd blow fuel too, so maybe they wouldn't. But the fact of the matter is they got a wide open throttle switch on them. You're supposed to anyway.
Sure.
Therefore, you can't lift, because if you lift, nitrous won't come on. And if you're dialed to have the nitrous come on, then you need the nitrous to come on to get there. So I guess if you can figure out how to consistently do it and you're willing to just never look, then it would be a good method to have, because you're always jumping in front of somebody. But again, it's only going to work so many times because racers are paying attention to you. And I can tell you right now, as soon as one person figures it out, everybody knows, because whenever we were watching it, I said, Bogacki's spraying on a timer here. And my other buddy, almost exactly at the same time, had texted me and he says, Bogacki's spraying it on a timer. And I said, see, I mean, it's just, people can figure that out. Everybody can't. And again, he got down to like 16 or 8 cars, so it obviously was working. It got him into split and everything, but you can't drive the stripe because you've given it up. But if you can hit the tree and go dead on every time, which he can, as good as anybody, if not better than everybody, it doesn't matter. You don't need to look if you're going dead on. It doesn't matter.
True. The more you take, the more you make to combat that B-double-O, take double-O. You know what I mean? So I think both are true to some extent. Let's just keep it real. But another way, Casey, that, and maybe I could be confusing the tune-up that the guy I'm talking about with what he's doing out there, and this is timing reductions or retards or whatever graph you're running your car on. I know people who do it on the starting line. I know people who do it at the finish line. It is what it is, right? Or have a certain amount of timing out of the car and ramp it all the way in right before you're getting close to the finish line. I don't really know how that would work as a tune-up, but it's all doable. And I got a hunch with some of this timing stuff, dude, feeling like it could potentially make cars more consistent, especially if you're making your timing ramp back in from, say, 60 feet past, where you're getting off the line, kind of settled down, and then ramping your car all the way up to whatever timing you would have it to be at. Getting out by the 330 or something. I don't really know. But there's a difference in those cars too. Dialing could be 5 flat. Man, they're pulling you about 145 mile an hour, 143 mile an hour. That's not a 5 flat mile an hour by any means. Am I right?
Yeah, that could have to do with gear, rear end gear size. Some guys run 390 rear end gears. A lot of dragsters run 411 rear end gears, which is why you'll see them go 480, but they'll go 150 mile an hour almost.
Yeah. But that is deceiving. That in itself is completely deceiving. 150 mile an hour is a whole lot different than 143 that it should be.
Mm-hmm. I'd always rather have more mile an hour than anything, personally.
Sure.
But I don't know. I mean, it's a matter of how you want it to look, and more than anything, it's a matter of how to get used to it. You need to know how it looks more than anything. True. That's why there's a guy, I forget his name, but there's the guy with the little airplane wheels on the Super Comp car, goes 890 at 127 miles an hour or something like that. I mean, that guy said on a podcast, I want to say it was on Luke and Jed's podcast back in the day, he said something like he couldn't drive the stripe, and he's accepted that. So he's just making it where it looks stupid to everybody. So that way he can figure out how to go dead on that way. And they're used to driving. Super Comp runs typically, on average, I would say 90% of the cars run between 178 and 183. And then there might be some outliers on either side, but he's so far of an outlier that your slowest Super coming up on that dude by like 50, 60 mile an hour.
Right.
So it looks stupid to them every time. So they have no choice but to basically try to go 890 on him. And he feels like that's his advantage, is that he can run 890 every time. He won the world championship, I think, doing it. So clearly he can go 890 more than a lot of people, but they can't wheel race him. You can't wheel race somebody that's 60, 50 mile an hour slower than you.
No, you might as well bow out.
Especially not on the quarter mile.
Yeah, you might as well bow out or whatever you were planning to do, because everybody in this chat knows that Super Comp is who holds the most and can get rid of it at the finish line in the first place. Everybody's pretty well set up to run under 890. definitely opinion based. If I would love to speak to anybody on the matter who could tell me that I'm wrong, and I will accept it as well because I've never done anything as far as for super comp racing. But essentially, it seems like most of these cars are definitely capable of going faster than 890, which would be, in my opinion, the smart way to run the class. So, but it forces them to make sure that they know how much they need to put back in the throttle stop to make sure that they're able to get back to 890. It's just another game that you get to play up there. Oh, I'm running this guy, and I know he's going to be way slower than me. So yeah, that's pretty neat. It's pretty neat, man.
There's a lot going on with those super classes, man, because you can have multi-stage systems. You can make them where the throttle stop opens partway on one and closes all the way on the other one. You can have an override button that overrides another one. So at any given point, you could be going 860 or something. If you're way behind, I mean, there's a whole bunch going on in those classes that a lot of people don't really give it credit for. To be a top tier racer in those super classes, it is pretty tough. It takes a whole lot of practice.
Mm-hmm. I agree 100%, man. So, no, Casey, I thought that was a decent conversation for today. Just kind of get in there and talk about how people are setting their stuff up. If I had a way to pick, I think I'd go bigger block motor and take some timing out. Maybe do the timing game. I just feel like there's some consistency to be had there, I think. I could be 100% wrong, man. It's okay, but I'd like to test to find out. That would be what I would pick. In grand scheme of things, which direction would you go before we get out of here?
For what exactly?
For a tune-up that is different than, let's just say, but in the ones we've talked about, timing reductions, nitrous setups, high gear only setups. I know you've done the high gear only portion. Would that be the weapon of choice that you would use to be a little bit trickier, or would you pick something different?
I think the trickiest thing to do is spray a whole bunch of nitrous at different points more than anything. Spray enough where it'll move a bunch. And it's I don't know. That's just the thing I think, because you can do that at any point and you can do it on demand too. You don't have to, you're not at any given point, you could have like 300 or 400 more horsepower. And that's the way that you really manipulate the look of the race, because you've just transformed a car. For example, if you have your normal, say, just your normal 570 tube chassis car, you're going to make somewhere around, I don't know, somewhere around 650, 700 horsepower, something like that. You're just run of the mill car. At any given point, that car can transform from a 570 car to a 490 car if you're spraying it that much. I mean, it's such a crazy thing to be able to manipulate the race that much, but you have to be very responsible with it, and you have to know. I mean, if you spray a car like that, you could pick up 2/10 in a run, depending on where you spray it, or more if you spray it flat off the line. There's people who do that sometimes too. I want to say Rick Harless, we were talking one time, and I think that car that he wins a bunch with in the Verge series, I want to say it runs 520s or 50s or something, and then he sprays it and goes 470s, but you got to get it right off the line.
No, that makes sense, man. It makes sense. It was a heck of a conversation, I think, Casey, man. Especially with lack of data to work with on today, since we're we're not so far into winter, but it's cold outside. Everybody's probably getting close to turning their heaters on. So, guys, we can't thank you enough for joining us on another episode of Going Bracket Racing, and coming in and chiming in the chat and letting us know how you feel about things. Remember to be sure and subscribe to those channels, the YouTube channel in particular, for sure. Make sure you are enrolled or ready to be selected for one of those Proform giveaways. You can't get in if you can't win if you're not in. You know what I mean? So I lost my words there for a second. But guys, thanks for joining us on another Tuesday. Take it easy. We'll see you next time.